Okay, I think we'll kick off. Welcome, everybody, to our first steering committee of the Plymouth County Food System Action Plan 2026 edition. We're super thrilled to have you all here. I do think we might have one or two folks who may be new to our project. If I think we have quite a lot to cover, so I think I'm going to skip introductions for the time being. And if you guys want to share who you are and where you're from in the chat, let's do it that way. And then folks, if we have some time at the end, can share a little bit more about themselves. So today, the focus is going to be on the draft public survey that will soon be going out to the general public and food-related businesses in our region. We have Barrett Planning Group, who is going to be talking about that today. Some of you may know that Barrett Planning are the consulting group that we hired last late fall to help us develop the action plan. So they've been really busy doing some outreach as well as some sort of literature review type research on food stuff happening in the region since they were hired. And now the focus is very much turning onto the outreach side of things. So most of today's meeting, I'm going to kind of hand over to them to talk about what they've been up to and about the survey that they have developed. We also, I don't know, Liz, I know Rita wasn't able to make it to this meeting. Yeah, you can do it. Okay, cool.
I can do a little update.
Awesome. So we'll kick off. For those of you who are new, Marion Institute is one of our partners on the project. They, in addition to helping us utilize a tool called CARROT, which is basically a food system health assessment tool that was developed nationally. They're working with a group of folks in our community advisory board to kind of run through those indicators and identify strengths and weaknesses. They are doing broader work on the food system in southeastern Massachusetts. So everything that we're doing here in the county and adjacent areas is going to feed ultimately into their broader work. So I'll pass it over to Liz for like a quick 5-minute update, and then we can jump straight to Barrett for the rest of the stuff. But before I do, does anybody have any questions? Does that all sound good? Anything else that's burning on anybody's mind that they were hoping to hear about today? No? All good? Cool. Okay, Liz, over to you.
Okay. Thanks all for being here. And just my teammate and colleague, Rita Higgins, has been the one that's been leading the CARROT work with all of the counties, and that's why she's not able to join us today. She's actually on leading some of that work with Nantucket County. So we are leading this community and agricultural resilience audit process with all of the counties. And what it does for anybody that's new, just really quickly, is it measures, it started off measuring 101 indicators across 7 themes. We've now up to 152, I think, or 53 indicators, because we added a bunch of indicators for what was missing for fisheries and aquaculture industries, and making sure that we were bringing that into the fold. This was a tool that was created by the North American Food System Network and Indiana University, so clearly they left fisheries out, and we are building it in, which is kind of neat about how you can use this tool. So we've been at this work with Plymouth County and the stakeholders, many of you participating for many months now, and we have gotten through themes 1 through 4 and are about to launch theme 5, which is a focus on local producers, farmers and fishers, processors, and distributors. We started that expanded version with seafood, like I said, in the last meeting with Plymouth County. And we've been fortunate to have probably about 13 to 15 people in each of the sessions, which is great. We always want more, but that's a really good start. And we'll be working next with Joanne and her team to really start looking at who hasn't been at these meetings and who are we missing and who do we want to do either one-on-one interviews with or some focus group work with. So that will be kind of the next thing that we'll be launching to do with Joanne and the Barrett team and all of that. So happy to answer any questions, but those meetings always follow these meetings right after at noon. Up, you're muted, Joanne.
Thank you. I never learn. So I'm going to drop the link to the next meeting if folks do want to stay on for the 12 o'clock Community Advisory Board meeting, where we're going to be going through that tool that Liz just described. The link will be in the chat. It is a different link, so you'll need to click over at noon to join that meeting. All right, with that, I think I'll pass it over to Judy and her team at Barrett Planning Group. Judy, if you could just briefly introduce your team, then we can kind of take it from there.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, I'm Judy Barrett, and with me on this call are Jill Slankus and Brenna Trollinger.
Thank you. All right, and who's going to talk about sort of the survey and an update about where you guys are at?
Jill or Brenna, who wants to take it?
Jill, if you want to start with like an intro overview of where we are, and then I
Sure.
can take the survey if you want.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So we have put together a draft survey, and we've received some recent comments from OCPC that we're working to incorporate into it. But the idea is to design a survey to get input that would help us understand the food system better, where things are being processed, distributed, grown in Plymouth County and the greater area, and then also some consumer preferences and food access type of information. So we wanted to share with you the general content of the survey and the flow, but also to have this as an opportunity to encourage this group that when the survey is live, which is expected in the upcoming days, to really take the information that Joanne will give to you and send it out to your networks and really encourage people to take part in the survey. I think we're explaining at the beginning how the information will be used, right? I know there's survey fatigue out there from people, and but if they can feel empowered that this information, is going to be used and put into place for some actions, concrete actions, that we'll see changes in the upcoming years, that would be better. So we want to see also get input from this group as to how you think the survey can be most effective, but also to use your networks to distribute it. So that we can get responses. And as those responses come in, we'll be watching them, on a weekly or so basis, and be able to see if there's gaps in who we're hearing from, and then pivot and make some moves to reach out to different populations that we may not be hearing from. Just as an overview, to keep this project on time, I know it has end of June deadline. We're anticipating the survey being open through March 8th. And I don't think we have any wiggle room to extend it beyond that because we need to use the information to incorporate, into recommendations and strategies thereafter. So that's sort of the overview of the utility of the survey. It may also indicate for us folks that you mentioned that we may want to have smaller group interviews and stakeholder meetings with, maybe focus groups, asking people if they'd be interested in joining us on that front to get information. So I'll turn it over to Brenna now so you can have a little insight into what we're talking about. And then we definitely welcome, your comments and questions regarding the survey.
Thanks, Jill. Oh, I also wanted to point out with Bear, we also have some sub-consultants with us today, Lydia and John, who I don't think were introed, but they're here with us today.
Thank you, because I completely forgot. I'm sorry.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, now let's make it bigger so people can read my screen. Is that better?
Yep, looks good, Brenna.
So we have a quick little intro to the survey telling people that it's going to take about 15 minutes. We're hoping maybe we can slim it down a little bit more. What the survey is for and how they can get involved and what their answers will help us do. So we first ask them where they live, and these are all of the towns within the study area. It'll be a drop-down list, so it will be a little less cumbersome than this scrolling. And of course, like not everyone will live within the study area, so we have another option, which will just help us gauge who's answering these questions and where are they answering from. Then, like Jill mentioned, we're hoping to use the survey as a way to understand if people aren't at the table, would they like to be interviewed or a part of a focus group, and how to do that. And so the basic structure of the survey is splitting it into people who are food producers, distributors, processors, and who are food consumers. So this will split the survey at this point. If they say yes, then they'll be prompted to a different set of questions than if they're just, you know, generic people who participate in the food system through food consumption. And so we did send this survey over to OCPC, and they've gotten us some comments back on the consumer section that we're working to incorporate. So these food production, processing, and distribution questions are still very much a draft, and we welcome your input on anything. And actually just, you know, stop me anytime you have a question or a comment, because I can't see everybody on my screen. So feel free to just interrupt me. So we have producers broken down into type of producer and what they're growing or raising. We ask them where their farm is located, because this might not be where they live. People might work off farm or have to travel far to produce food. We ask about the size of their farms, how many acres are currently being used to produce food, or how many are not in production currently. We're asking a little bit about land as a foundation, how they're using their land, if others could maybe share land, if there's more opportunities for that, if their land is being conserved through a protection program, how much, why or why not, how big their farm is in terms of how many they employ, how long they've been producing food, what generation producer they are currently. And specifically for first generation producers, we're asking about their challenges in starting up a farm and what they encountered. So this will be just asked to people who've indicated that they are a first gen farmer. We've also asked about if people have plans for their farm after they retire, after they're no longer farmers, because as many producers are aging, this is a current and near future concern for a lot of people. We're asking about different practices on their farm, different sustainability practices, low till, no till, using rotational grazing, things like that. We've also asked about processing on site at a farm versus third-party processors, to get a better picture of where food is going after it's been grown, how far people need to travel to process their food, and where they're selling it, and if they're selling these in Plymouth County or selling them elsewhere. We've asked them to identify challenges to selling locally within Plymouth County. In each section, we're also asking about waste products, food that doesn't get sold, food that can't get sold, and what happens to those waste products. We're asking about the market value of these products that are being sold, which will help us get a sense of scale and capacity in the area. And then an open-ended question on what they see from their lens as a producer about what the challenges are in the county. We asked a little bit about how they, as a farm community, stay up to date with one another, their knowledge on grant fundings and opportunities that exist. And then that is the food producer section. The food processing and distribution follow a similar pattern, but they're tailored to each section. So this obviously talks about how food turns from raw product to what gets on our shelves and how it gets there. So it's a lot of the same questions from the producer side, but tailored to a new lens of processing. Asking what is being processed in the area, what type of product is that, whether it's a raw material or a finished good, somewhere in between. Again, the size of the workplace, how far people need to travel, where the products are coming from, where they're going, is that Plymouth County or elsewhere? Facility and capacity within facilities in the area, challenges. Again, we ask about waste products and what happens to those. The size given a market value, and an open-ended question on challenges. And then the third section is for food sellers, so restaurants, grocery stores, things of that nature. And it goes through a lot of the same processing and producer questions that we just went over. Thinking about size and capacity, where food is getting bought from to be sold in stores in the county, where it's coming from, what the challenges are, waste products, where those go, the size of business based on revenue, and an open-ended question. And so this section, the food consumer section, is designed for the general public, so people without a specified knowledge of the food system from their growing, processing, or distributing food products. So we wanted to know where people are buying food, what types of stores, how long they travel to get to food, how they're getting there. We've also asked about farmers markets, why people would shop there or wouldn't. Same with farm stands or CSA programs. What matters to people when they buy their food, how you decide what food to buy or not buy. If there are access issues in types of food, specifically things like cultural foods that might be hard to get here in Plymouth County, or local foods or fresh foods. We asked them their opinion on locally grown or produced foods, whether or not they're actually buying those foods. They may have an opinion on them. Where their food is coming from, how we could make it easier for them to buy locally produced food or farm products. Again, that open-ended question about significant challenges, questions on food waste and what happens to it, composting, composting at a municipal level, which some cities and towns do, others don't. And then there's an option for them to jump to the other survey, but I think with OCPC, we're working out some changes to this logic where it will go producers to consumers rather than consumers to producers. Then we ask a little bit about them, age, racial identity, household income, size of households, food access and security. We did receive some comments from OCPC on changing the format of this a little bit, so we're still working through those comments as well. Food security resources.
Data being received.
What influences food access, how people are able to access resources with new or worsening situations, and specifically how people are able to access food in the event of a disaster. So that is a quick run through of a pretty long and complex survey. But if anyone wants to go back to something, if you are like, there's a huge glaring hole, you missed something, let us know.
I also think just one, oh, go ahead, Karen, first.
No worries. I was just curious if there was any thoughts to anyone that might not have English as their first language. Is there the need to maybe do translation services or maybe doing some interviews with an interpreter? Just wondering if you feel that's going to be a need.
So the survey is going to be available in the 5 main languages that are in our region. So Spanish, Haitian, French, the biggies.
Yeah.
So the survey will be able to, the online version, I should say, will be available in multiple languages. We haven't thought about I know Rita and I in the past have talked a little bit about trying to get um, English as a second language folks together to talk about food, particularly in Brockton and some of our more diverse areas. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that, but it is on our list of things to discuss with Barrett. It's a little difficult. How do you guys have a method that you use, Karen, when you guys do outreach like that?
So, yeah, so the reason why I was asking is because we went through our needs assessment process within the last year, and it's super challenging to get the people that you're really looking to, to
Right.
get to. So I found that our success, we were pretty successful with our focus groups. So we found groups that were already meeting, so we kind of met them where they were at. We had an interpreter to help. And I think that's probably where we got the most. We did get 20 non-English surveys. But really had to work hard for those, making
Yeah.
sure that the people that we're serving, the people that we were looking to contact were really super involved. But it is definitely one of our biggest challenges as well.
Yeah, we
Yep.
do. When we've done surveys in Brockton and generally in the region, we've never really had more than roughly a dozen non-English surveys come back to us. We do reach out to all of the sort of grassroots or formal nonprofits and organizations in Brockton and other areas when we do outreach. So we have like the Cape Verdean Association in Brockton. There's an interfaith group. There are a lot of groups we reach out to, but we
Mhm.
don't often get a lot of traction.
Yeah.
So it is tough. When you did your focus groups, did you offer incentives or stipends for participation?
We did.
Yeah, that's the other big one.
We were,
Yeah.
I mean, not huge, but I think we were giving, like $25 gift cards and we had food available. But we had, put that into the cost of the process. But you're right, it was that was our biggest challenge for sure.
Yeah. And we do have some budget for that in our thing. So it's definitely, we'll
Mhm.
follow up with you, I think, Karen, and pick your brain a little bit more. Liz, I know that you have some experience with folks with lived experience as well on your cabs.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that when we did the 2021 food system assessment, it was during the pandemic, so we had to rely on surveys more than focus groups. And we worked with the Immigrants Assistance Center in New Bedford, and they were unbelievable.
That's right.
We had nearly 500 people respond to our survey, and a lot of them came from the Immigrants Assistant because they just did it with them
That's
and
perfect.
translated. And then, yes, definitely with incentives as far as I mean, one of my teammates is out right now doing a survey with food pantry guests in New Bedford at Pace, and we have gift cards for anybody that participates in the survey. So
Mhm.
food, gift cards, and getting somebody like the Immigrants Assistance Center and somebody that does that, that's sitting with clients and can add that
Yep.
on as a thing to do was really like what put it over the top for us.
Yeah, yeah. Trust, I think, is huge, especially right now.
Definitely. Yeah,
We need
doing it
those
with somebody
trusted.
they already know. Absolutely.
Yeah, super. Well, I'm glad you guys have already thought about it. That's great.
I think one of our questions, and specifically getting Joanne and Liz and folks to review this is just not wanting to duplicate questions that are being collected in the carrot and wanting to really make sure that we're being thoughtful about that. So, Brenda, I know we're going to be incorporating a lot of y'all's feedback. So if you do have things that you see that have been asked over and over again, or even Karen in your most recent community needs assessment, like how we can get that information from other studies and not duplicate the questions here.
I think with the carrot tool, it's mostly knowledge and information kind of producing. I don't think it's going to give us any quantitative information like that.
It's different questions for sure,
Okay,
Lydia.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's more about like the questions you're asking are very specific to individual needs and individuals, where the
Yeah.
stuff we're asking is really social infrastructure.
Great.
So people like policies, programs, practices, people,
Great.
organizations that are doing certain things or putting,
Mhm.
infrastructure in place that support supports a resilient food system. So
Great.
this is more granular for sure, but this is the type of thing that we'll definitely do within the food system assessment. So
Yeah, is that helpful or that we're doing it this time, or are we?
Yeah, I haven't had time yet. I looked at this really quickly when you guys first sent it out, and I want to compare it to the one that we used during our food system assessment in 2021. But for me to find that would be like time.
Digging.
Yeah, but Holly will be able to find it right away. And I think
Okay.
you know Holly well. And
Yeah.
so being able to look at Holly is who we're working on the bigger
Great.
food system assessment, Holly Fowler. So
Great.
Yeah.
We're meeting tomorrow.
I
I
did
wonder.
peek at it. Yeah, I was just going to say, Lydia, I did peek at the one that they did in the past. I think a lot of their questions are targeted more broadly with policy and stuff too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
we
it's
had
definitely worth
several
having
different surveys though, Joanne, just to clarify, because we did one that was like community focused, we did one that was farmer focused, and we did one that was I think we did 3, so I'm not sure, but I will get them all and share
Okay.
with you all.
That would just be so helpful because I think, we're just trying to make sure that the information is building and not
Yeah.
duplicating. And I think if you're going to be creating another set of surveys for your assessment update, that we just make sure that, yeah, we're building on it and
Yeah.
that it's useful for y'all too.
Yeah. Did you say you were meeting with Holly tomorrow?
And Rita, yeah, I'm just dropping in
Oh,
on
yeah,
their meeting.
perfect.
So I'll ask if it's okay. I'll just share this with them as well, if that's okay
Great.
with everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was really just meeting with them to make sure I understood the timelines for information as well.
Okay.
Lydia, do you have access to the carrot folder yeah, okay. Super.
It's a lot of info. It's great.
There's a lot, yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts about the survey? Anything we think we might have missed that we should be asking? No, looks like everybody's feeling pretty good about it. That's great. So our plan for promotion is going to be throwing it literally out everywhere where we possibly can. Typically, what we do at OCPC is we will send it out to all of our municipalities. So that includes the town manager, probably the select board chair or council chair, council president, or and specific department heads that may be relevant, or board or commission heads, chairs that may be relevant, if we have that contact information. So it goes out to the municipality, and we give them the instruction that, please make sure that you share with anybody else in the municipality who might have an interest in this or whose work is related to this. We engage more directly with the libraries and the senior centers in our communities. So depending on, every town does things a little bit differently. Typically at a minimum, we'll have a poster and possibly some hard copies in those locations so that folks can take the surveys when they see that stuff. Some libraries are very willing to put flyers in books as people check them out. So we'll do that where we can. With senior centers in our larger communities, we'll probably have a staff person go out there during a popular lunchtime to see if we can get some like one-on-one surveys completed, help folks fill them out. We typically do that as well. We also will be reaching out to all of the farmers market managers that we're aware of to make sure that they themselves complete it, but also their vendors pass it along to their vendor list. Similarly with the chambers of commerce in our region. So we have 4 regional chambers, but we also have many like municipal level, or maybe 2 or 3 municipal chambers as well. So there's probably like a good at least dozen of them or so in our region, if not more. So we'll send it out to them. Yep. We'll ask them to put it in their newsletters or to directly reach out to their membership. We have contact lists in our region, so 17 communities at OCPC, for a lot of community and grassroots organizations. So that includes things like neighborhood health centers, food pantries, your like the interfaith groups that I mentioned, other churches, you know, and places of worship, contacts for groups like the NAACP or other local advocacy groups or issue-based groups. We are going to be asking for people's help, especially outside in the broader county area. I know Plymouth County, Frank, and the commissioners have that broader reach. So we're going to be working with them to contact those communities that are outside of OCPC's region, but still within the project area. So those are places like your Hingham and Cohasset and things like that. What else am I missing? We also try and do some radio interviews. So WATD is usually a popular one that we get on. We have never done any non-English radio interviews. We don't have anybody who does not speak any of the other popular languages in our region, unfortunately. So if anybody has any suggestions for sort of an ambassador who might be willing to do an interview on a radio about the project in a different language, please let us know. We do try and get some articles in some of the local papers. So we tend not to pay for advertising, but there are some places like the Duxbury Independent, the Duxbury Clipper or the Plymouth Independent that will put articles in for free sometimes. So we try and do that. We also advertise on social media. So Facebook and Instagram will put together some social graphics and a budget and target that for our region. Schools are really tricky. It very much depends on the school district as to how the superintendents and leadership generally feel about promoting surveys. So there's usually two ways. Either they'll agree sometimes to send out a message as part of like their parent newsletter or something like that, or they will allow us to place flyers to go home with kids sometimes that are targeting their parents. We typically do not survey school children because there are parental permission issues there. We do sometimes get, folks under 18 completing our surveys, just happen chance, but yeah, we don't tend to target those super young folks. Trying to think of what else we typically do. Judy, if I'm missing anything, Liz, if I'm missing anything that we've talked about, those are kind of the main things that we do. So like I said, we try and throw it out as much as we can. We do have other projects at OCPC where we're out and about in the community. Some are related to kind of food. We're doing another farmland protection project. So we tend to try and double up as well too. If we're doing like a road safety audit in a community, then we'll try and get them to spend like an hour at the library or something like that doing the survey as well. So we do try and double dip on other projects when we can. So that's, I think, on our end, a brief summary of how we're planning to promote the survey. It is going to run for about 6 weeks. Barrett is going to be helping us keep track of responses and also the demographics of folks who are responding. So if we see, for example, midway through that it's all high income folks that are responding, then we might make special efforts to go to places and organizations where we might get a broader reach of folks. Karen, your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when are you hoping to get this out by?
So we have I forget what the conference is called, so I don't know, Lydia or someone, if you can help me out, but there's a large agricultural conference that's happening at Bristol Aggie this weekend.
It's CMAP's
so we're
annual
hoping
conference.
CMAP's annual conference.
Yeah,
there we go.
it's SNEACS. It's the Southeastern New England Ag Conference and Trade Show.
What Meg said. That's happening this Sunday, weather permitting, and if not, it will be put off to the following Sunday. So we're going to have a table there, and so we're hoping to launch the survey at that event.
Oh, super! Because I can put it in my newsletter. I'll be sending one out in probably a week or so.
Oh, great! So we'll get you info by then.
And I know South Shore Community Action Council is also doing their outreach right now for their needs assessment. And they have a food bank that services all of the food pantries in the area. So they might be able to do some good outreach as well. And I know another thought too, Mike Jackman, who was on the cab for the Greater Plymouth Chenal, he has a mailing list of like 200 of the nonprofits all, in the Southeast Massachusetts that I think he could send out to as well. So definitely
That would be awesome.
a lot of opportunity there. But I'll if you send the final link or whatever, I'll get that into my newsletter.
Yeah. What I'm planning, excuse me, what I'm planning to do is Barrett is helping us develop a flyer that's going to have a link and a QR code. And we're also going to have like a generic social media graphic and some kind of like key messages or suggested posts and stuff. So we'll send you a little packet that hopefully will make it really easy to just pop it into whatever outlets you guys have.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a quick
Meg?
question, and maybe this was like already brought up, but is it possible with the development of the survey that like if you are not a food producer, can you like skip the like 40 questions that are for
Yes.
producers and you just going
Yes.
directly? Okay, so that's an option. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that was in the chat and I was going to address that. The logic would be like based on the answer choice you give, you will jump immediately to what's relevant to you, and you don't
Right.
need to skip 45 questions to get there.
Yeah. So right now it's looking like roughly like 10 minutes to complete the survey if you are just a member of the general public, roughly about 10 minutes to complete it if you're in a food related business. There will be an option to do both if you want to, if you do happen to be a food distributor, but we're really trying to target we want to make sure that the folks that are in the food related business do the business survey first and then can choose to continue on to the consumer survey if they want to and have the time. But we don't want to miss them as like business people.
Yeah, I think making the survey look less overwhelming is critical. So I think actually the physical handout of it should be de-emphasized as opposed to the electronic. I know we have a mailing list at the county. The question is, it's not a very diverse list. So we can send it out through there. Molly or Meg, do we have lists down with extension services that we can utilize? Do you think that would help?
It's something we can talk about, Frank. We might have some other blasts we can assist with.
Okay.
Yeah. I know we've
Thank
talked
you.
about reaching out to 4-H families and stuff like that as well too. Marion, of course, is going to put it in their newsletter as well and help us promote it through, their networks. So a wide net, I think, definitely.
We'll be at the conference on Sunday too, so honestly,
great.
could have it at our table as well.
Awesome.
Joanne, this is Jill. I can't figure out how to put my electronic hand up. You mentioned about the communities outside of the OCPC area and that Plymouth County could be covered. Are there a few other communities that aren't covered in either? And I guess what's the plan to just make sure they're receiving correspondence?
So the communities that aren't in Plymouth County are part of OCPC's region.
Oh, they are.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Right.
they are. So we'll be
Right.
good on those. Yeah. So
Right.
between us and the county, we've got everybody covered.
Yeah.
Except for
Actually,
Cohasset.
Yeah,
But
Cohasset.
Cohasset, yeah, but I'm involved in a resilience project they're doing there. So we've got, and I think Marion is as well too, actually. So
Okay.
we'll be able to slip right in there too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on the survey or promotion? No? Great.
Question on the survey. Do we have a targeted goal number that we think will make it statistically significant? Or
We
is it
talked
just going to be anecdotal?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this at a meeting that I had earlier with Barrett Frank. I think when we did the regional water survey, which was just the 17 OCPC communities, we had like somewhere around like 12 to 1,400 responses. So we're kind of expecting same ballpark in terms of number of responses. If, halfway through we only have 100, then we're gonna like panic and ramp up our efforts in every single way possible to try and get more. I don't think that will happen in this case. We're not, maybe Brenna, Judy, you guys can talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
the issue is, response rate is relevant to when you know what the universe is. And the universe in this case is just really so broad and in some ways nondescript that you can't sort of say, well, here's a good response rate, because you don't know what you're measuring against. So I would just say for us, because we do surveys all the time here, for us, it's a participation opportunity more than something that we're doing to achieve some statistical validity. And that's the way we look at it.
So we're not going to be weighting it like, some UMass surveys that you might see done at the state level for demographics or anything like that. But it is always made clear who the respondents were. And if there are, a multitude of high income folks and nobody from low income groups, then we'll point that out when we present, the survey findings so that people are aware it's not meant to be exactly representative of the region. This is just who happened to respond and participate.
We can also filter so that, for example, you can compare how the overall survey respondent group responded to a question compared with people in different income groups, and so forth. So there is some
things like that.
cross-tabulation capability that we have used often.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Anybody else got any questions? No? Okay, so what we'll do is, as I mentioned earlier, we'll send out the packet with survey promotional materials to help you all help spread the word. I'll probably maybe every couple weeks once it's live, just send you all a quick email update to let us know where we're at and let you know what we've done in terms of outreach so that you can either be reminded yourselves to do a little bit more or potentially share other ideas with us about how we might be doing it to get additional responses. At our next meeting, Jill, help me out here. I can't remember. We had talked about what we wanted to focus on in our next meeting, and I can't remember now. We'll let you know.
Yeah, I think, Brenna, I don't know if you have it off the top of your head. Was it on the project timeline?
I believe we'll be discussing some of the, like an overview of the findings we've found so far.
Right.
At the end of February.
Yeah. So as I mentioned when we started, Barrett's been doing a lot of desk review of information that's out there, looking at, the economy and the data that we have, census info, that kind of thing. So we'll share findings from that as well.
And then are we also, Joanne, going to talk about the public participation plan? I know we had talked about that a while ago about trying to schedule what kind of participation meetings we'd have, or is that after the fact later on in summer?
Yeah, we'll send you guys an update on that. Barrett has already, and maybe Lydia and John, you guys can talk, for a couple minutes about who you've been talking to. So Barrett and their team have already been reaching out to some folks to do some one-on-one interviews and site visits and things. We're going to pull a list together, or we have a list together of those, and we're going to add to it. We're hoping that both the CARET assessment is going to identify other people or organizations or businesses, as well as the survey results themselves. But one of the big questions is particularly the focus groups and who we want to target for those. So we'll be reaching back out, I think, probably after the survey is live to kind of start planning those.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, happy to share. John and I have been interviewing a few folks kind of high level with at MDAR and American Farmland Trust, and then also some key folks that support farmers and food system organizations in your area, and really trying to understand what other plans are out there that we can make sure we're reviewing and incorporating, and then trying to understand kind of on the ground agricultural producers and the vibrancy of that community. So I'll be down there on Sunday and Monday. Judy's kind of scheduling a bunch of meetings for us all to do with town planners as well, and then hoping to come back and start in on focus groups, particularly with farmers and food producers in the region first, to really understand what folks are seeing on the ground. And we just had a great connection with Meg and Molly this morning too, just trying to understand the landscape a bit more before we have our on the ground focus groups and meetings with folks. But yeah, that's Judy. Anything I missed for who we're meeting with
Not
on
right now.
Monday?
No, we're actually still trying to, Brenna's on it for the afternoon schedule. We are going to be stopping at Island Creek Oysters in the morning and then going to Plymouth, although that everything's weather dependent. So
Yeah.
we'll have to
Yes.
just stay on top of this.
But
Great.
really, we do also welcome input. I think
Yeah.
please tell us, like, you need to go meet with this farmer, or you've got to come see this shared community kitchen. Any information that you can share with us, and if they weren't on our list already, we want them on our list. The information is only as clear as we can, see and validate with these interviews, and it's really helpful to hear firsthand from you. I think, Meg, I really so grateful for you and Molly taking the time this morning, because that was just it was really thorough, and clearly you have a deep pulse on a lot that's going on. So thank you so much. And just really, really value everyone taking the time to meet with us. So thanks.
Yeah.
Send us
We'll
your
share,
recs.
we'll share the list. OCPC is going to add some to Barrett's list. So we'll share that all with you guys so that you can identify who's missing, which will be a biggie.
Thank you, Joanne.
And I will say, and Liz, maybe this is also would be something that we could understand a bit more from Marianne, is we are having a lot of the food system infrastructure around processing and is outside of the actual study area, but we're still including it as infrastructure that is available for the study area. So if folks have connections that are, I would say even within an hour or so from the study area around infrastructure, it's helpful for us to understand where farmers and food producers are going. So thanks.
Like the $1 million question, Lydia.
Well, Meg gave us I thought that was so good today. I mean, I drive down your way for a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of farmers are going very far to get their needs met.
Yeah.
And that's actually, and just for those of you who weren't with us from the very beginning, that's ultimately what kind of precipitated this project to begin with, was whether there are any infrastructure gaps in our region to support local food production. So
that's literally what started this whole carrot work that we're doing.
I bet.
Is that our capacity building working group was going in circles trying to answer that question of where is the hard infrastructure assets and how do we identify them and blah, blah, blah. And we had high hopes that the carrot was going to answer those. And then when we dove into it, we realized it didn't, but what it does provide is also really valuable. And now I'm sure you're aware that MDAR with the Mass Food System Collaborative is doing more.
Their database,
yeah. So I was just on a call with them and yesterday, and we're having lots of calls with them as far as our data dashboard and what their data dashboard's looking like.
Yeah.
So trying to align. But it's nice to finally, I feel like for the last 18 months, we've been sort of pushing this, and now it feels like, oh my God, are we all kind of swimming in the same direction? Because that would be cool. So that's great.
Yeah, it's great. And thanks. We met with Christina yesterday as well and heard all about, so that's great. So yeah. And I think, with those those $1 million questions, we will just keep those as kind of our guiding light. But if other things come up as you're, the carrot information is very extensive. And so I am trying to get some cliff notes too. So if there are moments, oh, you're muted, Liz.
Yeah, sorry. And that's you know, one of the things I think is important to note with the carrot and why we have Holly on board early in the process and have had her on board, you know, with the community of practice that we have happening with all the county leads is to really start to dive into that carrot and for her to be able to say like what's going to be the most useful from the carrot for the FSA versus what's just useful for each county to have in their back pocket so that they can use in any ways that they need and can keep adding to it and stuff. So that's in the process of getting sorted out a little bit more now. So I'm sure you'll have a little bit of that conversation with Rita and Holly tomorrow. And I looked at my calendar. I can't join that. I was
Okay.
like, why am I not in that meeting? And then I have another meeting at that time.
Okay.
So
Well,
yeah,
we
you'll be
definitely want to
busy.
find a time to catch up too with you, so we'll make sure
Yeah,
of it.
sounds great.
Yeah, and I think that's like you just bring up a question that's been ringing in the back of our minds is just making sure that this plan is a tool that people want to circle back to when you are applying for grants or, you know, trying to build that next piece of infrastructure, that this
Yeah.
tool helps to unify some voice across lots of different organizations and producers. So
Yeah, well, I
that's our
mean,
goal.
our ultimate goal, and I think Joanne and Frank, you know, are all on board with this, is we've been having this conversation that the goal is that, you know, everybody's doing the carrot. We have shared data with that and shared understanding, and then it all goes into the food system assessment. So again, but that doesn't become anything except a report with a bunch of information until each county takes it and uses it to inform their specific food action plan that then is influenced by what everybody else is doing. So just like you all are doing the food action plan with OCPC, you know, we really need to see that happen. That's like phase 3 of this project, right? Phase 2 is doing the carrot and the FSA, but phase 3 is really everybody using that shared data and creating a food action plan that's informed by everybody else's food action plan. So we can really identify how many processing centers do we have and what do we need, and how many aggregators do we have and what do we need, and distribution sites. So that's
Yeah.
where the magic will happen. But, you know, that's why I always say like we'll be in a significantly different place in 5-10 years from now than all of us just swimming in circles, chasing our tails, thinking we have to do everything.
And in the RFP that we put out for the consultants, I think we were very specific that we wanted a plan that was specific.
Yeah.
Something that's actually actionable. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the strengths of Barrett and, you know, your team, is that you guys know the region and can get to that level of specificity, because high level recommendations are sometimes really tough to implement. They can be guiding, but we want like real projects that we want to come out of this.
Yeah. And I think the tough thing with Plymouth County specifically is like you're the first one, right? You're out there before we finish the food system assessment, but that's just like how the money goes, right? And getting the grant and being, you know,
Right.
Joanne and Frank, too good. You're too good, you know, and bringing that funding in. But I think it will still, you know, still work. Yeah.
Super. Okay. So it is now 11:56 and we have our meeting starting at noon to talk about food production. The link is in the chat, so check that out if you want to hop over and join that meeting. They are recorded, so you will see those posted on the website. Does anybody have any final thoughts or anything to share? No? Okay. Stay warm, everybody. Hopefully not too much snow this weekend. Go Pats. And we'll see some of you all at our next meeting.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.